What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Coelum Farms. Today we are in the kitchen and we are going to be making soap. So to make soap, you really only need three basic things. You need lye, or sodium hydroxide. You need an oil. In this case, we're going to be using a combination of coconut, olive, and a few light oils, and a emulsifying agent, so water. Now for our soap, this is our lemon lavender. So we're going to be adding some lavender flowers in for a little bit of an emulsifying agent. We're going to be adding our lemon lavender scent, a little bit of bentonite clay as a detoxing agent, and we're also going to be mixing some hemp and almond in for our light oils. Let's go ahead and get to it. So when we're handling lye in any form, we always want to make sure that we have a vinegar of sort, preferably white vinegar, on the side, ready for easy access, because if lye gets on the skin, it is a corrosion agent, so it will start to burn, and vinegar will neutralize it so that it doesn't burn any more than it has to. When possible, it's always best to wear gloves. And when you are mixing water with lye, you never ever want to pour the water into the lye. You always want to pour the lye into the water. If you pour the water into the lye, it can erupt like a baking soda vinegar volcano, and you can have a very bad situation very quickly, especially if you have littles around that are helping you. So always make sure you pour lye into the water. When you pour it in, you want to make sure that you are stirring continuously, because otherwise it could stick to the bottom of the container, and you never want to use a plastic container when you're doing this, because it could eat away at the plastic. Also, you want to keep in mind that this is going to reach some really hot temperatures. So you want to make sure you have a thermometer, because we want to let this cool down to about 95 to 100 degrees Fahrenheit before we mix it with our oil mix. For the oils, I like to measure out my liquid oils first, like my olive oil, if you use hemp oil, or in this case, we're going to be using avocado oil, and get them weighed out into the bowl. And then a separate microwavable bowl, I like to add my solids. In this case is coconut oil. You can also use a small double boiler, or you can also put this out in the sun if you have a little bit of time to wait and let it melt that way as well. However you decide to melt your solid oils, when they are melted, go ahead and mix them with your already liquid oils, and then set it aside as we wait for our lye solution to cool to the proper temperature. When we mix our lye solution into our oil mix, once it has reached the proper temperature, we want to make sure that we mix it by hand for a few swirls to make sure that we get it incorporated, so that when we put our emulsion blender into the mix, it doesn't splash lye into our face or onto our skin. And then we want to do it on the lowest setting, and we want to blend for a little bit and then swish it around by hand, blend for a little bit, swish it around by hand. We want to continue to do this because what we are looking for is just a slight trace. And what I mean by trace is it's going to almost represent the consistency of pudding. And when you swirl it around by hand and you pull your emulsion blender up, you will see a slight elevated ring left behind by your blender. Once you achieve this, you can move on to the next step of adding your essential oils, your clay, or your scents at this point, and then you're going to mix that in. If you're adding any color like I am here, you can go ahead and mix that in at this point, but the color is not necessary. All right, guys, so it is the next day and we have our finished soap loaf. Here it came out amazing. I really like how the lemon zest and the lavender flowers came out as decorative on top. We're gonna go ahead and we're going to get this cut up and get set on our rack for the start of the curing process. Now, you don't want to use your soap right away. You want to let it sit in a non-humid, dark, kind of cool place for 3 to 4 weeks to actually let it finish curing. Otherwise, it's just going to disintegrate and fall apart on you. So I'm going to go ahead and get this soap cut up and put on the rack for the start of the curing process. You guys don't really need to hear me do that, so we're gonna wrap up this video while I'm doing that. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me on this episode of Coelum Farms. I will see you guys in the next one.